Alright, so today we're going to build what is called a min-max program. And what that's going to do, it's going to ask our user how many numbers they want to input into the terminal. Then they're going to put in however many numbers they said, and then we're going to go through and find what is the largest of those numbers as well as what is the smallest of those numbers, and then it's going to say it back to the user. So during this project we're going to learn about some very important parts of programming in general as well as the C++. We're going to learn about the if statement, the while statement, as well as the relational operators in C++. And so we're going to begin with the if statement because in my mind it's the most important decision-making sort of thing in programming. It's across every single programming language. So how it's set up in C++, you simply type if, and then you'll have your parentheses where we will test something. We will see if something is true or false inside those parentheses, and then based on if it's true, we would execute the code that is within this code block here. So as an example, we would write something like 1 is equal to 1, and then we'll just say equal. So this here is going to print out to the terminal equal if these two are equal, and since they are, it'll print that out. Now if I were to change this to 2, then this if statement would conclude to be false, and this would not print out. It would just this program would pick back up at the end of this bracket here, so it would skip everything that's inside of these two brackets. So that's an if statement, and we will come back to this when we are setting up our program. And for a while loop, we're just going to start developing our program directly. So what we're going to do, again, as you can see here, we're going to ask our user how many integers they're going to input into the terminal. So let's go ahead and write that out to the user. And before we can take in their answer, of course, we need a variable to hold it in. So we are going to create an integer variable in, and we're going to initialize it to -1. And the reason I initialize it to -1 is because we want a number that is greater than 0. And so what's going to happen here in our while loop that I'm about to show you, it's going to keep checking in to see if it's greater than 0, and if it is, it'll end the loop. If not, it'll keep going because we have set it up to -1. So this is going to hold in the user answer. And so how our while loop works here, we'll say while n is less than 1, we'll ask the user for a number that's greater than 0, and then we'll take that answer in and we'll put it into n. So what happens here is we initialize n to -1, and while n is less than -1, or I'm sorry, while n is less than 1, so while this is true here within the parentheses, this code here executes. So the first time through, it'll ask the user for a number greater than 0. So if they put in 1, 3, anything above that, then this will put it into n, and then it'll come back up and it'll check in one more time, and if they put in a number that is greater than 1 or greater, then this will stop. This loop will not execute again. It'll just start here. So this is the while loop, and this should work for our user. Let's go ahead and just test our program as is, just to see where we're at. Alright, and then so it popped up here, it's asking us for a number that is greater than 0. Let's go ahead and put in like -64. Perfect. It asks us again. Let's go ahead and put in 0. Still asking us. We'll put in 1, and it stopped. Perfect. So that's what we wanted out of our program for now. Let's go ahead and keep developing here. So at this point we need to ask the user for the numbers that we're going to compare here, and we're going to need some variables to hold those numbers. So these are all going to be integers as well. So we're going to have one for the current in, and what this is, say the user put in, they're going to input 5 numbers. This would just be like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. That's just to keep track of which number we're on. And then here we have the current number, and this is the actual number that they input. This is going to be what they put into the terminal. We're going to need one to hold the max number, so this is the largest number they put in, and we're going to need one for the mid number, the smallest number they put in. So the first time through, we don't know what max and min are, so we are going to assign this to the very first number that they put in. So we're just going to say the current in is equal to 1, because no matter what, we have an integer that is 1 or greater, so this is going to be their first one they put in. And we are going to ask the user, we're going to say to enter an integer. And then we're going to put that into the current number. And then whatever they put in, doesn't matter what it is, we're going to assign that to both max number and min number at the beginning, because they are unassigned at the moment. So first number, no matter what it is, it's going to be equal to, min and max will be equal to this number that they have input. And after we do that, we need to set up our while statement to take in the rest of the numbers for comparison. So we'll set it up like this. We'll say while current in is less than in. So current in is 1, and say they put in the number 5 up here. So we're saying while this number is less than 5, we're going to ask the user for an integer, and then we're going to compare it to max number. We'll compare it to min number, replace it if it's larger or if it's smaller. And we're just going to do that until it reaches this size, till it reaches size of n. So we will design all that here for you. So we're going to do the same thing we did up here. We're going to ask the user for an integer. We're going to put that integer inside current num. And then this time, however, instead of just assigning it to max and min, we're going to do some comparison. So we're going to say if current num is greater than min num, or excuse me, max num, then we are going to make max num equal to current num. That's it. And then we're going to do the same with the minimum as well. And so we're going to use what's called an else if statement. So this is if we were testing the same thing here. So current number is less than min num, then min num is going to equal to current num. And so after we have this if statement set up here, basically it'll go through this first. It'll see if it's the max num, and if it's not, it could also be the minimum number. So if it is the minimum number, it would switch that out as well. And then if it's not that, it'll just keep going on the code. And to keep this from ending someday, we need to make sure that we increment our current in. So if we don't change this current in, so if this was 1 and n was 5, this would just loop through forever. It would just constantly ask for the rest of time, or until that computer died, for an integer, and it would keep comparing the two. It would never end. So we need to take current in, and we need to add 1 to it. So we'll say current in plus plus. So after our while statement here, we just need to print out to the screen what the largest number was and the smallest number. So print results. And so we'll say max. Min. Okay, it's going to print it out at the end. Let's go ahead and run it now. Do the same thing. We'll put in 4 numbers. We'll have high numbers. We'll have some low numbers. We'll have some medium-sized numbers. And what did we get? Okay, so our max number was 90,000. Let's make sure that was the case. Yep, definitely. Min number was negative 48,928. Perfect. That is what we thought. Good job. For deeper learning on C++, visit us at makethingswithcpp.com and be sure to like and subscribe.